Good morning. Happy Thursday. Today we are learning the ninth and final Perek of Gittin. And tomorrow we start Kiddushin and we make the Siyam on Tuesday, Mitzvah. Excuse me. Today's share is the Eli Nishmas Aaron Nachum Simcha Kohen Shubmar Chaim Shef Bracha Sab Shmuel Leib and Ben Moshe Ben Yosef made the Nishmas will have an aliyah. And Rafur Shlema for Yisrael Rachel Leah Rachel Maspesel Zelda Rachel Eliana B'Siyah Bracha Abu Yisrael B'Risha Chai B'Stel B'Beh Rafur Shlema So Shar Chal Yisrael. And a special shout out to our sponsors at Seder Nashim, the Imperial Advisory Group, for all their support during the past 3 months since we started this. And if you are in need of any financial help for your business, from CFO stuff, please reach out to them. They're the best in the business. And reach out to them at imperialgrp.com. Okay. Perek Test Mishnah Aleph. Hamagarish is Ishto. Someone divorces his wife. Amala Hare At Uteres L'chol Adam El Leploni. And he says to her, when he gives her the get, you are hereby permitted to marry any man except for so and so. The malach is as follows. Rabbi says that the get is valid and she is permitted to marry anyone else except for that one person. Also, the Chacham asked her to marry anyone because they do consider this to be a lack of separation, and the divorce does not take any effect at all. They said that once he's putting restrictions on it, then the divorce is not chal. What should the husband now do to divorce her properly? Yitalena, Hemena, B'yachsu, he should take the get back from her. Again, instead you are hereby permitted to any man. It's a quickly reverse it. If the husband wrote, you were hereby permitted to marry any man except for Ploni in the get itself. Even if you later erases the words except for so and so, then the get is possible because it was written with the intent that she not be able to marry that particular man. Once it's been written, it cannot be undone. It has to write a whole new get. Mishnah Beis. Hare at mutarvus l'chol adam ela la'aba levicha. If someone gives his wife a get and says, you're hereby permitted to marry any man except for my father or your father. Sounds a little weird. What are you saying about the Ervas? Or except for my brother or your brother. Or except for so-and-so who is Eved Kanani or a non-Jew. Anyone else with whom Kiddushin cannot take effect for her. Kosher in all these cases, the divorce is kosher because she cannot have Kiddushin from these men anyway. So it doesn't make any sense. However, there are marriages that are ushered by the Torah where Kiddushin does take effect despite the assur. And these are no surprises over here. We've had this many times already. If his wife was a widow before he married her, and he says to you, you are hereby permitted to marry any man except for Kohen Gadol, or she was a divorcee or chalutza before he married her, and he says to her, you are hereby permitted to marry any man except for an ordinary Kohen, Mamzeres in the Sin of Israel, or she was a Mamzeres or Nesina, and he says to her, you are hereby mutter to marry any man except for an ordinary Jew. Israel, the Mamzer Nasin, or she's the daughter of an ordinary Jew, and he says to her, except for a Mamzer or a Nasin. The Chol Mish Yesh La Alav Kiddushin Afila Ba'avera, or except for anyone with whom Kiddushin does take effect for her, even if it is a sin for her to marry that man, as long as the sin is not punishable by kares. Possible in all these cases, divorce is possible. It does not enable her to become ma'ares, betrothed to everyone that a regular get would, and is therefore not considered a total separation. Mishnah Gimel, a gufo shall get hari at mitaras the The essential part of a get is the statement: "You are hereby permitted to any man." If that is missing, the get is possible. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda is not supposed to say the following: "V'dain dihavi lichim menai." And this shall be to you from me, Sefer Teruchim V'Geris Shibukin V'Get Peturin, a document of divorce, a letter of abandonment, and a bill of release. Any one of these phrases is sufficient. The Mihach Ulehis Nasva L'Chol Gvar Sivian, that allows you to go to marry any man that you wish. This sentence is needed to make it clear that he's divorcing her by means of this document, and that is the document that makes the divorce take effect. Now we're going to talk about freeing a slave. Gufo shall get shiur hareat baschorin hareat atzmech. The essential part of a freedom document, to release slaves, is a statement: you are hereby a free woman, or you are hereby to yourself. These documents, if the document does not state either one of these phrases, statements, it is possible. Mishnah Dalit. Shlosha Gittin Pesulin. There are three Gittin that the Chachamim ruled are possible, and if a husband divorces his wife with one of them, she may not get married. Even these days have kosher, but if she went ahead and married someone on the basis of such a get and had a child from him, the child is a kosher, an ordinary Jew, and is not considered to be a mamzer. So what is this? So um, even the three Gittin are kasab b'ksav yada ve'en alav edom. Again, that the husband wrote in his own handwriting, but there are no witnesses signed on it. Yesh alav edom ve'en bo zman. Or a get that has witnesses signed on it, but no date written in it. Yesh bo zman ve'en bo ela eid echad. Or a get that has the date written in it, and it was written in the husband's own handwriting, but it only has one witness signed on it. These three Gittin are invalid. In Nishes Hava Kasher. But if after receiving one of them, she married someone anyway and had a child, the child is fit to marry any Jew. Rabbi Elazar says, Afa Pishe, and I love Edom, Elish, Sinasnu, love is Edom. Even if no witnesses are signed on the gap, but the husband gave it to her in front of witnesses, kosher, it is kosher. Because it is the witnesses who see the get being given who make it into a legal document. Although the Chachamim did say that the witnesses should sign it, she may get married based on a get that is not signed as long as he gave it to her in the presence of witnesses. And the same is true with someone who lends money. The lender can collect the debt for property even if there are no witnesses signed on the loan document, but the document was handed over by the borrower to the lender in front of witnesses. This is because the Chachamim required witnesses to sign a get only for the benefit of the public. So that the witnesses who see the husband give the get die or they go to a different country, we may rely on the witnesses who signed the get to assume that the get was also given properly. Witnesses sign a loan document for the same reason. It is really the witnesses who see the document being given who make it a valid legal document. Therefore, even if there are no witnesses signed on the document, it is valid as long as there are witnesses who can say that they saw it being given. Mishnah Hey, Shnayim Sheshalchu Shnei Gittin Shavin. Two men with the same name each wrote a get, and they sent the same agent to give two identical Gittin to their wives, who also had the same names. V'nis Arvu. But before he gave the Gittin, they got mixed up, and he cannot tell which get was intended for which wife. No, Shneihem Lazu, Shneihem Lazu. He should give both Gittin to this woman and both Gittin to that woman, so we are sure each one received the right get. Therefore, if one of the Gittin got lost, the second get is useless because neither woman can get married again unless she receives both Gittin. Chamisha shekasu klal b'socha get. If five men decide to write five gittin on a single piece of paper, and they wrote the date as a general heading in the get, ish ploni megarish plonis, and then they wrote the details of each get, so and so divorces so and so, ploni plonis, and so divorces so and so. And the witnesses signed their names on the bottom of the paper. All the gittin are valid, and the paper should be given to each woman by her husband. Because the date is written only once, it is clear that these gittin were written by as one long document. Therefore, when the witnesses signed it, they were testifying about all of the gittin, and they are all valid. However, if a separate text, including the date, was written for each one, for instance, on Sunday, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, so and so divorces so and so, and on Sunday, the first of Nisan, so and so divorces so and so. The Eidim Lamata, and the witnesses signed their names on the bottom of the paper. Then all of the get with which the signatures of the witnesses are read, the last get, which is right above the signatures, is kosher, because the date is written separately for each one. It is clear that each get is a separate document. Therefore, the witnesses might have meant to testify only about the last get, the one under which they signed their names, but not the others. But because we do not know, the four earlier gittin cannot be used. Okay. Mishnah Vav. Shnei gittin kishikasun zeh b'tzad zeh. A sofer wrote two gittin next to each other, side by side on the same paper. Shnayim edim ivrim boyim mitachas zeh l'tachas zeh. And the signatures of two Hebrew-speaking witnesses appear under them in Hebrew, which is written from right to left, and their signatures stretch from underneath this get on the right to underneath that get on the left, giving the impression that they were signing on the get on the right. The two signatures of two Greek-speaking witnesses also appear under the two gets written in Greek, which goes from left to right, like English does. And their signatures stretch from underneath this get on the left to that get on the right, giving the impression that they were signing the get on the left. So you have two signatures on the right, two signatures on the left. So halacha is Eshe Edom Harishana Nikrema Ima Kasha. Only the get with which the signatures of the first witnesses are read is valid. If the Hebrew signatures appear first under these gittin, then the get on the right is kosher, because that's the one that they signed. And if the Greek signatures appear first, then the get on the left is kosher, since that's the one that they signed. However, the other get, the one that's not signed by the first witnesses, is not kosher, because they were not sure which get the second witnesses were signing. So it doesn't work. Because in some cases you're going to have four witnesses for one, and the other one has none. Therefore, only the get that signed with the first witnesses is kosher, since it definitely has at least two witnesses. If the two gittin were signed by four witnesses, the first one, a Hebrew-speaking witness in Hebrew, and the second, a Greek-speaking witness in Greek, then by another Hebrew-speaking witness in Hebrew, and then by another speaking witness in Greek-speaking witness in Greek, and all their signatures stretch from underneath one get to underneath the other get. The signature is starting on the right and ending on the left, and the Greek signature is starting on the left and ending on the right. Shneihem pesulin, both gittin are possible. No good. Okay, because you don't know who signed what or what's going on over here, so therefore neither one of them can be used. Mishnah Zayin, shiur mixes a get because of b'taf hasheni. If someone left out a part of the text of the get, and instead of writing the whole get in a single column, he wrote part of it in one column, the rest of it in the second column. The witness is signed underneath the second column. Kosher, the get is kosher. Since the witnesses are signed at the end of the get, it does not matter that in two columns. Chasmu Eidim Resh Hadaf, if the witnesses signed the get on the top of the page before the beginning of the get, Min Hasad, or on the left or right side of the get, or Mi'achar the get Pashut, or on the back of the get in the case of a get Pashut, which is not where witnesses are supposed to sign their names. Puzzle, in all these cases, the get is puzzle because witnesses must sign their names on the bottom of the get. If we put the beginning of this get next to the beginning of that get, the one get begins in the middle of the page and continues to the bottom, while the other is written upside down, also beginning in the middle of the page but continuing to the top. And the witnesses sign their names in between the two Gittin. Shnei and Pesulin, both Gittin are puzzle because the witnesses are not signed at the end of either get. Sofo shel zeh, b'tzad sofo shel zeh. If the end of this get is next to the end of that get, meaning the one get begins at the top of the page and the bottom it continues to the middle, while the other is written upside down, beginning at the bottom of the page and continuing to the middle. And the witnesses sign their names in between the two Gittin. The get with which the signatures of the witnesses are read in the ordinary manner, not upside down, is kosher, but the other one is not. If the beginning of this get is next to the end of that get, and that one get begins at the top of the page and continues to the middle, while the other begins in the middle of the page and continues down to the bottom. And the witnesses signed their names in between the two Gittin. The get in which the signatures of the witnesses can be read at the end of it is kosher, since the signatures appear below it, but the other one is invalid, since the signatures appear above it. Geschmack, good stuff here. Okay, Mishnah Ches. Get shekasu iris a get that was written in Hebrew, but all its witnesses, or it was written in Greek, but its witnesses signed it in Hebrew. Or it was signed by one Hebrew witness and one Greek witness. Meaning that one signature was in Hebrew and the other one in Greek. Kasav Sofer the aid, or one of the signatures is in the Sofer's handwriting, and the other one is that of another witness. Kosher in all these cases, the get is kosher. Ish ploni aid kosher. If a witness, so and so witness, it is valid, even though he did not write his father's name. Then ish ploni aid kosher, and if he signed the son of so and so witness, it is kosher, even though he did not write his own name. Ish ploni ben ish ploni lo kasav aid kosher. And if he signed so and so, the son of so and so, Reuven ben Shimon, but did not write the witness, it's kosher. Since he took the trouble to write his full name, it is clear that he is signing as a witness. This is what the pure-minded men of Yerushalayim did not speak or write more than necessary used to do when they signed the get. They would sign their full names but not add the word witness. If you wrote the husband's family name or the wife's family name instead of the father's name, it is kosher. Get Maisa, Meusa. If a get was given because the husband was forced to do so until he said, I want to give it, then the halacha is the Yisrael kosher. If it was forced by a Jewish court, then the divorce is kosher. Because in his heart, every Yid wants to do what the court says he should do it, since it is a mitzvah to listen to Chachamim. But with Goy, impossible. If he was forced to give by the non-Jews, then by the Goyish court, and the divorce is possible because it's not a mitzvah. There's no mitzvah for him to listen to them. As a result, even if he says, I want to give it, he does not mean sincerely, and he's only doing so because he's being forced. But Goyim, nevertheless, if the Jewish court wants to make him give a get by having non-Jews force him, Chof denosov amim lo asay mash yisrael amim lach. The non-Jews strike him and say to him, do what the Jewish courts tell you to do. The kosher, and if he then says, I want to give it, the divorce is kosher. Even though the non-Jews are forcing him, since they inform him that they're doing so on behalf of a Beis Din, it is a mitzvah to do what they say. Therefore, we have to assume he's sincere when he says he wants to give it. Mishnah Tes. Yatsa Shema Be'ir Mekadesh. If a report went around the city about an unmarried girl saying that she was Ma'ares that day by a certain man, she was engaged to a certain man. Harezu Mekadesh. She's assumed to be betrothed that him and must receive a get from him before she can marry anyone else. Migoreshes. If there is then a report that she got divorced from him, Harezu Migoreshes. He is assumed to be divorced. Since we assume that the Kedushin she was Mekadesh only on account of a report, we can also assume that she's not divorced based on a report. But we rely on a report only when there is no reservation attached to it. I mean, there's no other information that tells us that despite what we heard, she might not actually have gotten betrothed or divorced. Ezohi amasla. What is an example of a reservation that would cause us not to accept the report? Gereish ish ploni as ishto tonight. If there was a report about her divorce that said, we heard that so-and-so divorced his wife on a certain condition, since it's possible that the condition was not fulfilled and the divorce never took effect, the report of her divorce is not strong enough to allow her to remarry. Zarach la kiddusher safek karach la safek karach lo. Or in the case of Kedushin, if the report said that he threw the money for Kedushin to her, but there is doubt as to whether it landed close to her or close to him, since it is possible that the money landed close to him and the Kedushin never took effect, we do not assume that she is betrothed. Zu hi amasa, these are examples of a reservation that undermines the report. Beishamai said, in the last Mishnah, Mrs. Gittin, Mishnah Yud, Beishamai says, Lo yigarish adam es ishto ele imke matzaba et dava erba. A man may not divorce his wife unless he finds something immoral in her actions, unless she commits adultery or acts immodestly. Shenama ki matzaba eras dava. As it says in the pasuk, if she does not find favor in his eyes because he found an immoral matter in her actions, he shall write for a document of separation. Beis Hillel says, Afilo hekdicha tavshilo. Even if she burned his food, he may divorce her, or she added too much salt. The same is true according to the Meiri if she refuses to take care of some other household matters. As it says, if she does not find favor in his eyes because he found something immoral or some other matter in her, she shall write for her a document of separation. According to Beis Hillel, the person is speaking of two grounds of divorce. She had done something immoral, or B, she has upset him in some other matter. Rabbi Akiva, the third opinion, Rabbi Akiva says, "Afila matzah acheres na himena." Even if she did nothing wrong, but he found another woman more beautiful than she, he may divorce her. As it says there, that it will be if she does not find favor in his eyes, which teaches that he can divorce her even if her appearance does not find favor in his eyes. Yeah, so interesting. According to Beis Hillel, interesting notes over here from the Bartanura that Rabbi Akiva interprets the second phrase of the pasuk the same way Beis Hillel does. However, he interprets the first phrase, if he does not find favor in his eyes, as yet another reason for divorce, that her appearance does not find favor in his eyes. According to Beis Hillel, however, a man may not divorce his wife simply because he found another more beautiful woman. The halacha follows Beis Hillel. Even according to Beis Hillel, the Chachamim frowned upon a man who divorces his first wife. As the Gemara says that when a man divorces his first wife, even the Mizbeach sheds tears over this. This applies to a husband divorcing his wife against her will, which he could do in ancient times. However, today, following the Takana of Rabbeinu Gershom, a man cannot divorce his wife against her will. When they both agree to divorce, then there's less of a concern with divorcing even his first wife. Yeah, interesting stuff. Hadran Allah, Maseches Gittin, and tomorrow we start Kiddushin until the end of the Seder on Tuesday. Have a wonderful day and Kol Tov. We'll see you tomorrow.